What's going on, traders? We got a lot to talk about. Before we start, like, subscribe, comment your thoughts below. Let's get into the video. So right now we are looking at the triple Q's daily time frame, and we have made new highs. People are tagging me on social media, pretty much trying to imply that I was wrong in my last video, and we got to really think about this. Was I really wrong here? Well, first, we already hit the 525 target. No one seems to mention that I was right about that. And I even said we can go as high as the 530s. I said that multiple times, right? And so considering where we are, I would still say that we need to be cautious here. We're at the top of the rising wedge pattern. We rejected here. We rejection here. I mean, we had a rejection here, somewhat of a rejection here. So every time we hit the top of this rising wedge pattern, we had some type of rejection. Now, I will say, and I've said this before, you can feel free to check, we can break back above this rising wedge pattern that has some type of rolling over effect. And I'll get into why I think that is possible. But right now, again, I would still say we need to be cautious in this area. This is not a time, in my opinion, for me to be looking to get into calls on the triple Qs. Now, in regards to the triple Qs making new highs, sure, it did make new highs. But what about everything else? Let's look at the SPY. If we go to the SPY and we look at where it is in regards to its rising wedge pattern, and we go down to the 4 hour time frame, it's still hugging below its rising wedge pattern. It broke below it. Now, granted, it's not a convincing break, I would say, in my opinion. It's not very convincing, but we're still below it. So yes, the Qs made new highs, but did the SPY do that? Did everything else do that? No. And so it is very much possible that maybe SPY is being delayed. Maybe it's just waiting on news. That's very much possible. And if we look in the past and see what happens every time we broke below this rising wedge, bulls have stepped in. We had bulls step in here, bulls step in here, bulls just step in this general area here. And one thing I did say is that I do not like the fact that we're really hugging the bottom of this rising wedge. And the reason being is that again, we look in the past and every time we hug the bottom of this rising wedge, Bear stepped in multiple times and tried to break us down. So I would like to see us to get away from this area and start heading towards at least that 610, 612 target. So I've been saying these targets to the upside are very much possible, but everyone's focused on, the downside that I was talking about. And the downside is still very much possible. What targets did I give you guys? I said 604 is very much a target that we can see in regards to downside. And we're not in the clear yet. We're still in that territory where we can see 604. And the SPY went as low as about 605.8 Friday. So it's very much still on the table that we could see more downside. Maybe that's not convincing. I mean, we can look at Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin. Bitcoin dropped all the way down to 92K. While the triple Qs was making highs, Bitcoin was dropping, SPY was dropping, or at least consolidating, right? And so the triple Q seems like it was the only one that was really benefiting from new highs and, a few pick me stocks here and there. But other than that, everything else was either stagnant or dropping. So it's important, and this is why I say this all the time. It's important to pay attention to everything because this is how you get trapped. This is how you either get bull trapped or bear trapped because you're focused on one thing. So it is great that the triple Qs made new highs. It's great that it hit our target of 525. And yes, it can go as high as about the 530s. That's very much possible considering where we are. But am I going to be trading that? Am I going to be looking to get into those type of calls considering where the triple Qs are? Absolutely not. I just would not trust this move at all. Okay. And that is the reason why I like rising wedge patterns and falling wedge patterns because they're extremely predictable. Because if we do continue to head higher, which is very much possible, and I've said this before, okay, feel free to check. If we do break higher, it's very much possible that we break higher, break above this rising wedge, hit about the 530s, 535 target, and then we start to see that rollover effect. It happens like clockwork all the time, guys. The only thing is we just need everything to correlate. And right now, everything's not in correlation, okay? Everything's not making sense right now. We got some things that look bullish, we got some things that look bearish. And so we look at the triple Qs and we look at the SPY. The SPY is leaning more towards it wants to head to the downside, while the triple Qs is continuing to make newer highs. But maybe that's not enough. I mean, maybe we need more confirmation, right? Nvidia. What happened with Nvidia? I told you guys, this was probably the main thing I was wrong about. I said if anything was going to drop the market, it was going to be Nvidia. And Nvidia didn't really have much of an effect on the triple Qs. The triple Qs was still doing its own thing while Nvidia was pretty much dropping. But I mean, you guys see it here, right? Nvidia dropped, gave up that 144.4 level and pretty much dropped all the way into the 142s, right? But that didn't really have a major effect on the market. But if we look at the 4 hour time frame, and you can really argue this, right? I even said this in the Discord, you can argue that this is a head and shoulders pattern. You can say it's not. Either way, if it looks like the pattern, assume that it's the pattern until proven otherwise. But again, I mean, we're seeing everything else drop. I wouldn't say everything, but we're seeing some major names drop or either consolidate while the triple Qs is making new highs. Again, you have to pay attention to everything and stop cherry picking what is in your favor, right? Everything else is not making new highs. Okay, you have a few stocks here and there, Tesla's doing its thing and all that, but otherwise, when you're looking at the overall picture, you're not seeing too many things or too many big names making those new highs along with the triple Qs. Even Apple, I mean, Apple slowed down. Okay, we saw Apple slow down, and right now Apple's just consolidating this whole time. It's not really doing anything here. Let's actually get rid of this. But I would love to see Apple retest this area at 237. Let's go to the daily time frame. I would love to see Apple. Okay, I just little side note here. Okay, I would love to see Apple do this. If we do get a drop, I would love to see Apple absolutely retest this level right here. Okay, right here. I mean, that would be beautiful. And then from there, I think Apple's going to go ballistic. Okay, so definitely be on the lookout for that. But again, we're seeing Apple just pretty much not do anything. Again, triple Q's made new highs. We see Nvidia dropping. We see Apple consolidating. We're seeing Bitcoin dropping. We're seeing SPY pretty much consolidate. But you guys are like, oh, the Qs is making new highs. You were wrong. And it's just like, are we paying attention to everything else? Are we, or are we just trying to boost our egos and try to challenge me in every corner? Okay, so really start paying attention. This is how I know who's a good trader and who's a bad trader, because you gotta pay attention to everything. Okay, and I can tell a lot of you get trapped or bull trapped or bear trapped a lot. Okay, because you don't look at everything. This is not a jab. This is me trying to help you and guide you and let you know to stop looking at one thing, because one thing can lie to you and the other thing can tell you the truth. I preach this all the time. NQ can be lying to you while the triple Qs is telling you the truth, vice versa. Qs can lie to you while the spy is telling you the truth, vice versa. Okay, so definitely pay attention to everything. But again, Apple's not doing much of anything here. And then we look at the Russell. The Russell is still slowly dropping. Okay. What do I tell you guys all the time? The Russell is not going to go too far without the market. Okay. Right now, I think the market is holding the Russell hostage, but the Russell is showing signs that it wants to drop. And it's been slowly dropping this whole time. And no one's talking about this. Okay. No one's talking about this. So I would like to see the Russell at least get to 235, and then we can talk about a potential bounce from there. But right now, the Russell is not looking too good. Okay, it's still slowly dropping. Now, what I will say is that it's holding this key supply and demand zone. We zoom in here, but it broke below this symmetrical triangle. It pretty much consolidated below it. Tried to break back. Bulls tried to step back in. We broke down, and now we're pretty much at this supply and demand zone at around 238. But if Russell gives up 238, yes, we're heading lower towards that 235 level. But again, the Russell gave up 241, 240 psych level, and it's slowly trickling down. So yes, again, the triple Qs made new highs. That's great, I guess. But what is everything else doing? Not too good. Okay. So can we continue to head higher? Maybe it's a delay in the market. Maybe everything else is waiting on news, and then once we get that news, it starts falling along the triple Qs. Absolutely. But right now, I don't think this is the time to be super optimistic and just, because the triple Qs made new highs, the market is going to make new highs. We're not there yet. Okay. There's no signs of that yet. And I assume that if we are going to drop, okay, if we are going to drop, or if we're going to even go higher, I would assume that CPI report Wednesday is going to be the reason why. Okay. So we do have actually, what is Wednesday? The 11th. So yes, Wednesday. So Wednesday we have core CPI at 8:30 Eastern. So I do believe that that is going to be the reason whether we go higher or lower. And right now, I'm kind of leaning lower here, just considering where we are. Now, one thing I talk about, and I haven't mentioned this in a long time, but if you're new to this channel, generally what happens, okay? most of the time what happens is the market tends to run up into CPI data. Not even just CPI data, but many core events or main events such as, Jerome Powell. The market tends to have a habit of being bullish until up until these events, and then you get whatever reaction you get off of that news. So it's very much possible that we continue higher. And this is why I said that it is possible that the triple Qs kind of, break out of this rising wedge and start seeing a rollover where we can continue to head higher Monday, Tuesday, and even, maybe a part of Wednesday, and then we start to see that rollover effect. Okay, so historically, the market does run into these type of events, so we could see some bullish movement within the first, 2 days of the week, and then from there, it's really up in the air. But right now, I do think the market is due for a healthy pullback. Okay, I'm not saying it's the correction or anything like that, but I do think we are due for a pullback. And I think you should want a pullback. Okay, trading at these levels is just I don't know. I don't know how people do it. Okay, I don't. If you want to keep trading at newer highs over and over until the market rug pulls you, by all means do that. But right now, again, if we're talking about downside, I would love to see the triple Qs retest 517, 516.5. I mean, there's a gap that needs to be filled here. Okay, if anything, if you don't believe me on anything else, I mean, it's right here. The gap that needs to be filled. So I do imagine that sometime this week we could see this move happen. Okay, and we do have a catalyst that can support this move back towards this 516.5, 517 level. I mean, we can go to the daily time frame and get a better look. I mean, major gap here. Okay, so I would definitely pay attention to this. I would not ignore this. Okay, but downside is coming. I do believe that before we head further up, everything is overextended. And right now, you're just seeing the triple Qs go higher. That does not mean that the whole market went higher. And that is why we need to pay attention to everything. Now, we can talk about some stocks here. I want to talk about Tesla. So, in regards to Tesla, Tesla had just made a ballistic move after hours. It's at 389, and obviously that can change tomorrow or at market open, whatever the case may be. I mean, obviously that can change, right? But like I said, I've been saying this for a while that I do think Tesla is going to see 400 towards the end of the year. Um, when that happens, I don't know, but it looks like it's ready to make that happen pretty soon. So I would definitely watch Tesla. That's pretty much the only target I have for Tesla. Until we break above 400, there's not much to talk about here. We're pretty much in price discovery mode, so I don't really have much of a target for you guys. But the fact that we broke above this area right here, you see it, rejection here, rejection. You had a triple top here, rejection, 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 and then you broke above it, and Tesla's just been going insane ever since. So definitely be on the lookout for that 400 target. It's actually 394 after hours. So that's pretty crazy. Yeah. So yeah, 400. After 400, I would look at psych levels like 405, 410, things like that. But right now, until Tesla creates some type of structure, there's not much to talk about here. Let's talk about SMH, the semiconductor ETF. And so I mentioned this in the Discord that we can argue that this is a head and shoulders pattern on SMH. And I think I showed the same thing on NVIDIA. And so you have this gap down here, and we do have AVGO earnings this week. So this could motivate either downside for SMH and this actually plays out or some upside here. Now, if we zoom out, we go to the daily time frame so you guys can get an idea. You do have this rising wedge pattern. Right now, we're below this rising wedge pattern. So again, triple Qs is making new highs, but then you got semiconductor ETFs looking like they're trying to head lower. You got Nvidia just dropping, giving up 3 points within a day, 3, 4 points in a day. So I mean, you got to look at everything, guys. You just got to look at everything, or you are the type of trader that gets trapped a lot. Okay, you got to be either that, or maybe you just day trade, and that's fine. But regardless, I mean, SMH below this rising wedge. Now, I will say that SMH is really, really holding up this 247.8, 247.5 level. We'll say 247 just to really be safe here. But yeah, as long as it holds 247, you're pretty good. But once it gives up that level, I do imagine that we're going to head as low as about the 238, 238.5 range before we potentially maybe see newer highs. But yeah, SMH is just not looking good. It's not looking bad, it's just in a weird spot. Okay, I will say that much. So either it breaks above 250 and we head higher, or we break below 247 and head much lower. But yeah, that's what I have for SMH. We look at Nvidia. And so I talked about this. I said, and this is probably the main thing I was wrong about. I will admit this part, right? I said if Nvidia drops, or if the market had a reason to drop, it would be because of Nvidia. And I was pretty confident that Nvidia was going to drop out of everything else. But yeah, Nvidia dropped and the market somewhat held strong. You just saw a lot of consolidation, if anything, across the board. But yeah, I mean, one can argue, and again, you can argue that this is a head and shoulders pattern. You can say it's not. I really don't blame you. It's not the cleanest, it's not the prettiest, but you potentially have a shoulder here, head, big old head right here. So very much, if you disagree, by all means, that's fine. But regardless, Nvidia broke below a key level of 144.4, and now it looks like it's going to head lower. Once it gives up 142, you're looking at a move to 140s. Lowest I'm looking at is about 139 for now. Okay, but that's what I'm looking at in regards to Nvidia. So again, you're seeing a lot of things looking like they want to drop, while some things are looking like they want to go higher, such as Tesla or even coin, right? And so we look at the VIX. And so the VIX is really pushing it, guys. Really, really pushing it. And this is another reason why I just don't think this is, safe to play. Okay. You're at that 12 area that we've been talking about, between 13 and 12. And this is why I said you need to be cautious around this area, because things can get really, really ugly here. I mean, look where we are. Okay. We're at support. We're pretty much at support. We're at this trend. So things are very, very sketchy here. I would not be looking to trade this once again. So we can see some type of real rejection here. And this is why I say, if anything was going to cause a more downside in the market or even upside, you're looking at CPI data. Okay. And I think that's what the VIX is going to react to from this point on. Now, the VIX can head lower. I'm looking at about 12.5, but from there, I would still be cautious. Not even from there, just here in general in this area between 13 and 12.5, be very, very cautious. Other than that, that's really all I have. Discord link is in the description below if you want to see how I'm going to trade this week. Otherwise, you have any questions, comment your thoughts below. If you agree, let me know. If you disagree, let me know as well. Just keep it respectful as always. Until the next video, traders, have a good one.